Hello and welcome to the dog training course, Enriching Our Dogs' Lives. Okay, here's a quick overview of what we're going to be covering in this course. What is a good life for a dog? And when we think about that, we're going to be thinking about it from the dog's perspective, not so much the human perspective. Dog's natural behavior. What is hardwired in a dog? What instincts do dogs come with? Calming signals and stress signals. You see here how we've differentiated the two categories. We're going to clearly define the difference between a calming signal and a stress signal, and we'll talk about if these can overlap at certain times. And how does stress affect our dogs? That's a very big topic, and I think you're really going to get a lot out of this. What is not fun for dogs? This may actually shock you. There's certain things that people think are fun for dogs, but you may come to find out it's actually causing a lot of stress in our dogs. So what do dogs really like to do? We're going to cover that. Dogs' curiosity. That's a big thing to be aware of. We need to work with their curiosity. Human and dog conflict. That comes into play when the humans may have unrealistic expectations of what life with our dogs is going to be, how much work and training and time it's going to take. So we're going to talk about all that type of stuff. Fear and how to deal with it. That's a big topic, because if the dog is fearful and he's actually not able to take treats, he doesn't want to interact, how do you deal with that dog? So we're going to come up with some ways to work on that. We're going to talk about the dog's senses, his sight, his taste, his smell, his hearing. This is going to help us a lot in understanding the dog and what he sees, what his perspective on things are, and how we can make things more fun and stress-free for his life. Mental stimulation is really the big part of this course. Mental stimulation for people as well as dogs is more important than the physical exercise. And we're going to talk about why and what kind of mental stimulation we can create, how to do that. Enrichment areas, we'll talk about how to make those. Games we can play with our dogs. Even how to do a nice digging pit in the backyard. All these things will enrich our lives, our dogs' lives immensely. What is a good life for a dog? Well, the basics are food, water, shelter, bathroom needs, and enough sleep. And by enough sleep, we mean a lot of sleep for dogs. Dogs need quality sleep too, uninterrupted. They need a minimum of 16 hours of sleep a day. So a dog that's in a home with children, for example, would need his own place off to the side where he knows he can go in and sleep uninterrupted. Another thing to mention here is sometimes when people see their dogs dreaming, their muscles are twitching, they're running, they're catching that rabbit in the field or what have you, we tend to, be a little concerned and wake them up. We should never wake them up from this really nice deep REM sleep. Let them have that. Their body needs this to restore. So we need to let our dogs have enough quality sleep. That's important. That's a basic need of life. Without that, they are going to become stressed and irritable, and this can lead to a whole lot of trickle-down problems. So what is fun or good for us is not always fun or good for our dogs. What would a couple of examples of that be? Well, let's say, it's Friday night and we rent a movie. Oh boy, family night. This is going to be fun. But what does our dog think of that? You guys are totally boring. Dinner parties. Unless they include doggy friends coming as well, it is quite boring for our dogs. So things that we find fun are really not fun for our dogs. We have to think, okay, well that's great for us and we have all our wonderful activities and our friends and things that we enjoy, but we also need to think about our dogs and what we can do for them and their doggy friends and their social life and their mental stimulation and their exercise. Next, we have to think about the stress that our dog has and how we can reduce it. We all live with stress. There's no way to totally avoid that. A little bit of stress is not a bad thing. It gets a bad thing when it gets out of balance. So we have to be aware of the stress our dog is under. So first of all, we have to be able to recognize the stress. And we're going to talk about that in some upcoming slides. Dog's natural behavior. This is what the dog comes knowing. Remember, anything that's not on this list, we need to teach the dog. So what do they come knowing? They know how to mark their territory, pick up scent of females in heat, fight for territory. They know aggression, submission. They learn how to reproduce, eat food, react to danger, follow their mother for safety, breastfeed, and make physical contact. So this is all your dog comes knowing. Sometimes people expect a lot out of their dogs. We bring them in the house and we expect them to know all of the house rules. But let's look at some of these other natural behaviors for dogs. They're natural scavengers. What could that mean inside a house? Well, you leave your nice steak unthawing on the cupboard, walk out of the room. The dog is a natural scavenger. It's only natural for him to go pick it up and eat it. And to him, wow, he's been a really smart dog that day, and this has really paid off, and he's had a great meal. Did he do anything really wrong in dog behavior? No, he's a natural scavenger, and he did what he knows best. It's only wrong when the people don't want that behavior in their dog. They're natural diggers. They dig in the wild to make beds to sleep in, to cool themselves off, for all kinds of reasons, to bury things. So when we put them in our backyard and they dig up our garden, we think, oh no, bad dog, he dug up my garden. But is he a bad dog, or is he just a normal dog who's doing normal dog things? Protectors. Dogs are natural protectors. They bark at people when strangers come into your home. You may think, oh, what a bad dog. But again, he's being a normal dog. If we want him to learn something different, then we have to teach it. Hunters. Well, dogs wouldn't have been around living in packs for millions of years on the earth without hunting. They needed to hunt to eat. They needed to hunt to survive. So when dogs show this behavior, chasing small animals, cats, etc., we think, oh no, this is an aggressive dog. But he's not an aggressive dog at all. He's a normal dog with normal instincts to hunt. When we don't like this behavior, again, what do? We modify it. We teach them. It takes dogs a lot of repetitions to learn a new behavior. What happens with most people, or with a lot of people, is they'll try training their dog something. They'll give it a good shot. Oh, I've told him that at least a dozen times, and he still doesn't learn it. So they give up. Right at that point, he was just not even starting to get the basic of what you really wanted him to know. It takes dogs at least 60 times to really learn a behavior. So don't give up. Keep it up. Be more persistent. If it takes 20, 30, 40 times, the dog will eventually get it. But don't give up. The other thing that people sometimes think of when they think of dogs and their behavior, their natural behavior, they tend to think that dogs have the ability to do things out of spite, or because they're just plain stubborn. They know how to do it, but they're stubborn. These two, stubborn and spite, really, these two factors don't exist in a dog's brain. Dogs do not have the ability to do it out of spite. Dogs also don't have the ability to feel guilt. Not the way we feel guilt. Guilt is a later, more developed emotion even in people, and children don't start to feel the emotion of guilt until they're 5 to 6 years old. So before that, a child has an accident in their pull-ups, they don't feel guilty about it. They can feel fearful, they can feel angry, they can feel other emotions, but the emotion of guilt is not there. So it's never there in dogs. So when we come home and the dog has a mess and we walk in, first of all, whenever anybody walks in and sees a mess, they usually don't have a happy look on their face, they don't have happy body language. So what the dog is really reading is our body language. He knows we're not happy, so he slinks away. Or perhaps you've gotten angry at him before when there was a pile of urine on the floor. So for whatever reason, you get angry when there's urine on the floor. So he feels, afraid or upset. But he doesn't feel guilty about the urine. That's the thing to understand. Okay? He understands your body language, but he doesn't sit there and in his brain, he can't reason the fact that there's urine on the floor. I shouldn't have done that. I'm a bad dog. I'm not going to do that again. So getting angry at a dog in that situation is absolutely serves no purpose other than to make the dog afraid of you. So we have to remember that when we're dealing with all these situations of counter surfing, digging, chasing, accidents in the house, because in the wild, again, poo and pee happened everywhere. They didn't have to go in a certain spot. So when they have the occasional accident, we have to remember they didn't do it out of spite. It's not because you came home an hour late and your dog's mad at you. It's because he just couldn't hold it any longer. So let's look at it through a dog's perspective, through a dog's brain, through a dog's reasoning ability, which is not the same as humans at all. And if we start to think about that in that way, we really do have a lot more patience and understanding for our dog, and therefore a much greater relationship with them. The other thing to remember is dogs are visual animals. An example of this would be something like you go for a walk with your dog, he becomes reactive, perhaps he's frightened over something he's seen on the walk. A lot of people just want to pull them along and get them away from that, but what we should really do is let the dog look. If he wants to look, and if he can look in a fairly calm manner and not keep reacting and not keep escalating, because if he is escalating, you just need to get him out of there. But if he will calm down by looking at it, and you can say, hey buddy, it's not that scary, let him look at it and then move on. You know, give him the control of making the decision whether he can look at it or not. Let's not assume that every dog who sees something and reacts in the split of the second should never have a chance to look or explore that. Let's think about it. Each dog's an individual. Dogs are very curious, and as I mentioned in the table of contents, this is a kind of a big thing for dogs, so we've actually devoted an entire slide to that. So we're going to talk about that as we move through the course. Okay, calming signals in dogs, and our next slide is going to be stress signs in dogs. I want you to note the wording that I'm using. Calming signals, stress signs. That's a key to understanding this whole concept. Calming signal is a signal that a dog gives to either another dog or a person that he is stressed and he would like some distance increased. Okay, so it's a signal that the dogs are giving to calm the situation. So a calming signal is a signal giving to calm. A stress sign, on the other hand, is an automatic condition that the body will go into, more of a reflex action when the dog becomes stressed. For example, you take your dog to the vet and he develops sudden dandruff. Poof. Well, he didn't develop sudden dandruff to signal to the vet that he would like the situation calmed down. He did it because he's stressed. So that's the difference. The calming signal, again, is a signal in which dogs give to calm the situation with another dog or with humans. Okay, now some of the most common types of calming signals that dogs use, and they use these every day. Every single day your dogs will be using these. As trainers, we have to learn to recognize the really subtle small ones. It can even be a half turn of the head, excessive blinking of the eyes, a little tension around the mouth. We learn to watch for so many things. We really have to develop our observational skills. It's not something you can just read a book and be good at. It's something you read many books, attend courses, watch DVDs, and practice. The main thing for this is practice. So any dog owner can develop their skills there. It's just something nobody else can teach you how to do. You just have to do it over and over and over enough times till you really get good at it. None of us are born good at this. Believe me, I was not born good at this at all. It took me a long, long time to get good at this. So don't feel bad if you're missing a lot of stuff, and that's completely normal. But the good news is you can practice it. You can learn it. There's some really good books out there, and I'd be happy to get you started on where to go for that. So if you want to contact me, I would be more than happy to put you on the right course to get started in learning more. But it's a constant lifelong learning for this. I don't think we ever get good enough that we need to stop practicing or stop learning. I think it's something that we can all get better at. One of the most common ones we see in dogs is the turning of the head. That's usually the first sign. I mean, before you see anything else, the dog turns the head. He's meeting another dog, he turned his head away right there. Calming signal, I'm not comfortable in this situation. Please remove yourself. Please get out of my space. But so many people ignore that first one, so then we get into all the other ones. Lip licking, play bowing out of context. It's more of a stretch, and it is very much of a sign that they're trying to calm the situation down, and sometimes they're calming themselves down too. Like yawning and stretching can actually help them reduce their blood pressure. Okay, so it's a calming thing all the way around. Now, scratching or licking themselves. You know, when you think about it, why did the dog all of a sudden have a major scratch? You know, it's not coincidence. You watch this and we watch this and I watch this all the time. I see dogs in a stressful situation. Oh, I've got to lick myself down here. Oh, I've got to scratch and scratch and scratch. I'm so itchy all of a sudden. It's not coincidence. The dogs are showing you clear calming signals. Their body goes into a curve. That's common, especially when another dog approaches. Yawning, we see this all the time. It's an over-exaggerated yawn, and it's a quick yawn, and you're going to see it. And don't be worried if you see your dogs yawning several times a day. As I mentioned, all dogs are under stress. All people are under stress. We can't avoid that. But it's to watch it in context. Learn to take it in context. Dogs don't yawn because they're tired. It's possible they could once in a blue moon yawn because they're tired, but they yawn because they're giving a calming signal or they're stressed. Now, peeing is also a calming signal. If a dog starts peeing, he can tell the other dog, hey, I'm uncomfortable. I'm not trying to get into